over it. You know, in this town, everywhere, a lot of people were living beyond their means. There were some go-go years in there, and you have a line in there that we've heard before: big hat, no cattle. And how do you adjust that mindset, and that, again, the pride comes in. Absolutely. But how do you talk to someone about that and tell them, you know, that's not what's important?
Oh yeah, that can be hard, because it really does make you step back and examine, what are your values? You know, what are some of the things that are really important to me versus what I thought was really important? And you know, sometimes that can be a very difficult time, because it really forces us to take a look in the mirror, and we may want to run away from that. But I think it's important to do that, because that can really help us to even further understand what our goal is and what it is we need to do in order to take it to the next step. So I say definitely use this as a reflection period.
Interesting. All right, we'll be back with much more on Viewpoint. Our guests, Dr. Tamara Jackson and, of course, Willie Jolley. So stick around. And welcome back to Viewpoint. Our topic again, comebacks today during these tough economic times and all the trials, not just the economy. But let's start out with when somebody wonders if they are really not just in a bad mood or dealing with something poorly, but they're actually depressed. How does someone know? What kinds of signs and symptoms should they be watching out for?
Well, as we mentioned, you know, especially after experiencing a stressor, it can be natural to, you know, feel down and depressed. But when we find that that's going on too long and really starting to affect the quality of our lives, that's important. Some of the key things to really pay attention to is that if you find that you're feeling really sad and depressed, emotionally under the weather every day for the majority of the day, it's important to take a look at that. If you're finding that you have decreased interest in getting involved in activities that you've typically enjoyed doing, if you're isolating from people, if you are having a difficult time, you know, thinking, concentrating, if you're starting to really focus on like doubting yourself and self-worth and maybe feeling, you know, a lot of guilt, if you notice that you're sleeping either too much or too little compared to what you typically do, your appetite has changed, all of those are important to take a look at. And like I said, when we go through a stressor, it can be natural to go through those things for a temporary period of time, but as they continue to go on and really affect us, I really urge people to seek help. And I think this can be a touchy issue, because depression and other mental health issues can be such a stigma, especially in certain communities, and people don't want to reach out and talk about it because they see it as a weakness. And I urge people to not see it as a weakness. It's just a natural thing that we as humans go through, and the more that we can reach out for help with that, the more we can pull past it and move on to the next thing.
Let me say one thing about that before you go to, and I'm pressing, I want to just dovetail on that. I'm encouraging people, particularly in our community, to get counseling. You lose your job, you lose your loved one, you lose a friend, get some counseling, because we think, well, it makes us weak. Well, if you broke your hand, what would you do? You go to doctor. You broke your foot, what would you do? Go to doctor. We have a broken heart, and we try and heal it ourselves. And I encourage people to go counseling. When I lost my mother, my brother, my father-in-law in 2003, we talked about it one time on one of the shows, I sought counseling immediately. And that was the first call I made when my brother died, was call to get counseling. And I'm so grateful I did. So that is huge, and it kind of ties into some of the things I talk about in the book about how to deal with depression and grief, because you're going to have some of those moments.
Absolutely.
And it's there, it's out there, and that's why it is there. The help, whether it be therapy or what other social
support groups. Absolutely. This is where volunteering can come into play, because it's all about integrating yourself into a community and understanding that you do have a role and a purpose.
The book is Turn Setbacks into Greenbacks by Willie Jolley, just his latest on his string of bestsellers, 7 Secrets for Going Up in Down Times. There is a chapter subheading, Willie, Think Up, Talk to Yourself, and Talk Power into your situation. You can talk yourself up. So many people have a running negative dialogue. We all have before.
Right. Most of our self-talk is negative, you would know. And so we have to start talking positive to ourselves. And one of the things I did on my website is to put positive affirmations for people just to go and get free, so that people could get stuff to start saying to themselves. And just go to the website, WillieJolley.com. Get that absolutely free, because we want to help people to have positive conversation. And don't panic. One of the things is, don't panic. Whatever happens in your life, don't panic. Be calm. Now, I know it's hard. Some people say, well, it's easy for you to say, well, you got to make the decision to stay calm. I spoke last year on a program in California with Sully Sullenberger, and he landed the plane on the Hudson, and backstage I was lunch speaker, he was the afternoon speaker. I said, come on, shoot straight to me. How did you land a plane on a river? Come on. He said he had 2 minutes between the time those birds hit the engines and the engines failed. He had 2 minutes. He had to decide quickly, and the first decision he made was, don't panic, remain calm. He looked over at Manhattan. He was over top of Manhattan. I can't land there. He looked, I can't get back to the airstrip. Only piece of real estate is the river. If I think clearly and calmly, I can land this plane. And he did. And 150 people survived out of 150 people, because he did not panic. Do not panic.
One of the stories in here.
Yes.
You hear stories every day from your clients, I'm sure, and not all of them are of that magnitude. Sure. That is certainly a rarity. But when someone comes to you, I would think that, of course, their world is really all that they're thinking about.
Absolutely. It very much is. And I think that really goes back to the point of getting yourself out there and staying engaged, because the more you isolate, it's like what's going on up here, that's pretty much all you know. That's your reality, that's your world, and that's what you start reacting to, as opposed to what may really be out there.
Willie, you speak to Fortune 500 companies, you travel the world. There are common themes. I mean,
yes.
These are universal issues that we're talking about.
Yes. Whether I'm in Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, China, Japan, all of these issues are people issues. And people are the same in different areas of the world. They are struggling with their children. They're struggling with their finances. They're struggling with keeping their sanity. And so what I found in writing the books is just to encourage people, to encourage them through the lessons learned and the experiences I've had, to encourage them that the best is yet to come.
And it's transformative,
yes,
too.
It is.
These bad times can be.
Transformation is, look, change is one thing and transformation is the other. We all go through change, but we decide whether we're going to use the change to transform, because transformation is always positive change. And we can transform our situations by changing our thinking. And if we change our thinking, we'll change our actions. Our action will change what we do and what we get, and it will change our futures.
And you say in here, it's our choice. We have a choice to make.
Yes.
You would both agree with that?
Without a question.
Dr. Tamara Jackson, thank you. Willie Jolley, always
You're
good
the
to
best.
see you
and
again.
Thank you for reading that book.
Well, here it is. Turn setbacks into greenbacks, and I mentioned this at the very start. This is one of these books that you need to read repeatedly, because it's a life book.
Thank you.
All right, thank you both.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
It's a pleasure.
And we thank you for watching Viewpoint. Now back to News 40.